Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I want to talk a little bit more about prayer. I was talking about this in the video entitled You're Going the Wrong Way. Boop hole. Which seemed to be one of the more profound sort of talks that I gave based on people's reaction. But this is just, I'll cover that later, but this is just too delightful to wait. Like I saw this 2 days ago and I've been waiting to make this video, starting with this, because CNN has reached a new low. I would call it rock bottom, but I know they can go farther. But this is, Dana Bash, this ghoulish woman, Dana Bash, who's like 55, but she looks like she's 65. And there's this image I have of her somewhere where they got a close-up of her. She's really a big supporter of Israel. And this is Lindsey Graham. Dana Bash is a very unapologetic Democrat. Lindsey Graham is a closeted homosexual Republican, right? And they, somehow have a positive relationship here. But this happens.
There's a fun bar game, which I will clean up because we are in mixed company and on television. So I'm going to call it Date, Marry, or Make Disappear Forever.
Okay.
You guys know what the real thing is, right?
Yeah, we do. It's a bar game. It's a bar game you're playing with a sitting senator. This is really going to happen. It's totally going to happen. It's not a joke. This is about to happen.
You know what the real thing is, right?
I think.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know what it is. Data.
I'm gonna do a lot of the disappear forever.
First one usually rhymes with truck. Okay.
Truck. It rhymes with what words rhyme with truck? Make, marry, date, marry, or truck. And so she's like their big political analyst. Like she's always serious, and I've never seen her make a joke. She's just talks serious politics when the politicians are a joke and the system's a joke. But then she does this bizarre thing here. I guess they're sitting in a bar, but she had this planned, right? This isn't like something she did spontaneously. And you're too old for this. It's a stupid game, and she's going to do this with Lindsey Graham.
So, date, marry, or disappear forever. Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, Sarah Palin.
She said it look at the way. Let's watch the way she says that. It's profound.
Date, marry, or disappear forever. Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, Sarah Palin.
Look at her. Sit back and people, woo! This is a stupid game. This is a game you play when you're a dumb college level kid, whatever it is. You're a dummy, and you don't have anything else profound to say. You don't have any thoughts on, what's going on in the world. You're not you have no depth to your personality, and you play games like this because you have time to kill, and you're stupid and don't know anything else to do, right? This isn't something that you do as an adult. She's, like I said, she's in her 50s, 52 or 55 or something. He's in his 70s. And the answer is, I'm not going to play this stupid frickin' game. Because it's a stupid frickin' game, right? It's just some random thing that people do when they're drunk or stupid. You have to either be drunk or stupid, and most likely both. And there's just no, there's no reason to do this. It's just.
I didn't know we were going to do the Mormon thing here.
What's the Mormon thing? What is why? You think you're going to marry multiple women? Is that what you're saying?
What?
Date, marry, or make disappear forever. Take your time, Senator. We've got all night.
She winked. I think she must be on crack or cocaine or something, or she's maybe at least drunk, because that's not what she's usually like.
We can't go beyond dating. That's as far as I'm going dating.
Who do you want to date?
Exactly, because you're gay. He's very effeminate, and most people think that there's a chance that he's gay, right? And so it's a weird game to play with a guy who's a closeted gay guy, who's a Republican and conservative in a conservative state, who's very effeminate and seems to be hiding something.
Do you want to date Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, or Sarah Palin?
Okay.
No. So you have to pick.
Date all three. Okay. You don't get the game. You can't even play this game. This guy, like, this is a silly, stupid game. You're either going to play it or you're not, right? Like, you shouldn't play it. You should be like, say, I have more dignity than that. Like, I'm not playing this game because it's, like, silly. Like, it's goofy, you know? All these games like this. You know, like, there's things that are out there that, you know, if people ask me to engage in, hey, Paul, do you want a drink? No. Why not? Because I'm not frickin' 17, right? Because there's things you leave behind that you did in your youth that you no longer do when you're older, right? Because you have evolved into something where your consciousness is, I mean, as an adult, older person, you're now more refined and you don't engage in things. You know, I'm not saying like, you know, like once in a while you do youthful things, but these are stupid things, right? These are pointless things. Like what point is this game? Like what is the, it's not fun, it's not funny. And, you know, it's just like, it's just some kind of weird thing that's never going to happen, right? And so, you know, you just would say no to the thing. But he can't even do it. Like, all right, you're going to play it, then just freaking play it. Like, just put, you know, you got 3 categories and choose one for each freaking one of these freaking ghoulish women. You know?
Pick one. One of them you date, one of them you marry, and one of them you make disappear
Sarah
forever.
Palin, we'll go hunting on our first date.
Okay, who are you marrying?
I got to marry one of the 3?
Yeah.
Do you not understand the premise of the game?
That's how it works. Keep up.
Keep up. Like, you know, this is like an IQ test at this point. Like, you don't understand the premise of the game. It's like, you know, like I could go to the zoo and get a chimpanzee to play this game. You don't know the premise, and she's really into this thing.
I got to really watch what I say here.
No, you don't. You'd want to make Hillary Clinton disappear. I don't know who the other person is. Carly Fiorina. I think she's, is she, kind of remember who that is? She was a CAO or something or other. I think Trump called her, like, not, you know, called her ugly or something like that. Kind of barely know who that person is. But you want to make Hillary Clinton disappear. If you were a Republican and all your constituents, all the people who vote for you, all the people who are part of your party, want to make Hillary Clinton disappear. That's the easy option. She's given you that, like the one that, you know, you would make Hillary Clinton disappear. That's what, you know, I mean, the Republicans, all the people that vote for you and are part of your party were yelling, lock her up, right? You know what the easy answer is. So you would either date or marry. You'd probably marry Sarah Palin because she's the most conservative Republican. So you date Carly Fiorina. You would, you know, these are like, anybody could do it for you. She's giving you a list that's just, you know, it's obvious that you would have to say Sarah Palin just based in, you know, your political performance and the, you know, this fake persona that you've, I mean, you're not going to do any with any of them because you are attracted to men, right? It's like you're asking, she's asking a gay dude about, you know, dating, marrying, and you know, I guess disappearing, but trucking women, and none of those things are going to happen.
Okay, so it's date, marry, or make disappear forever. Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, or Sarah Palin, and Sarah Palin.
Carly, because she's rich.
What, you're marrying her? Okay.
She could keep me in the life.
I like that. That's very practical.
I'm a very practical guy.
So that leaves Hillary Clinton that you want to make disappear forever.
No, I just...
No. Like, take a frickin' stand, bro. Like, you can't say you would want, almost every, well, Bill Clinton wants to make Hillary Clinton disappear. It's just like, it's the easiest thing. It's like, you know, she put it on a tee for you, and it's completely safe. Like, nobody's gonna freak out because you said you played this stupid game and you said you would make Hillary Clinton disappear.
Is she rich?
I think so.
She said she was flat broke.
I'm going to let you off the hook.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you off the hook.
Okay.
I'm going to let you off the hook.
Okay.
That's CNN right now. This is their political analyst, their specialist. She's the one who, you know, brings the heat when it comes to analyzing politics. And she's letting him off the hook. It's just the weirdest game. What do you mean let her off the hook? What let him off the hook? That was just like, I mean, it was so pathetic. It was like great. It was a game that she should never talk about with some serious politician, right? They're supposed to be, we're at the cusp of World War III, and all the stuff that's going on, a divided country, and the most contentious election, and in history, with two guys who are both on the verge of complete senility and breaking down mentally. One is showing signs of dementia for the last 4 or 5 years, and the other one's consumed with hate and vengeance and narcissism and Trump. And this is and you're playing this stupid game, and you don't even make the guy say he would make Hillary Clinton disappear, which is like the easiest answer to say. Like, pretty much anybody could say that, right? I mean, whatever it is. Like, the game's stupid. He shouldn't have played in the first place, but the guy, he failed that. He didn't even understand it, right? Like, he didn't know how to play the game. Like, there's 3 choices, and there's 3 categories, and there's 3 people. You put 1 person in each category. And you should be able to do that without, I don't want to make anybody disappear. Yeah, you voted for these wars. You voted to drone kids. You supported all these things, horrific things, right? You supported the war in Ukraine. How many Ukrainians and Russians did you make disappear? How many, you're supporting Israel completely on this thing. How many Gazans and Gazans' kids do you make disappear? And you can't say you would make Hillary Clinton disappear if you could. Like, that's the one you'd wish would go away. Of course you did. I mean, that's was supposed to be your position. And you can't even say it. Like, it was the whole thing. I mean, this was like the epitome of this direction CNN has gone. And this is, politics as it is. Absolutely spectacular. Like, I did this thing on Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC on my other channel yesterday. It's worth watching because, like, they're just, like, they just lose it and they're calling each other names, and, like, it's so pathetic. Like, this is your tax dollars. You're paying these people's salaries, right? And CNN is, this is why that no one watches them, because it's the kind of content they produce, right? This is, this is the level of, these people are supposed to be adults, and they're like, pathetic children who don't really understand what reality is and how to be a human being. Okay, let's move this to our vice president without Dougie Fresh. Like, she's not nearly as palatable without Dougie Fresh. Dougie Fresh props her up, but she made a gaffe that I wasn't sure was true or not. Somebody sent it to me, and I didn't know if it'd been deep stated or deep faked or whatever. Deep faked. So I went to look for the actual talk, and it's the Asian Pacific American Institute of Congressional Studies. So she's speaking to Asian people about, Asian Americans, because, so this woman's running the thing here.
The perception of how others see you define who you're meant to be.
So let's get to where they introduce there's a person here. It's going to bring out Kamala.
President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Okay, so Kamala sits down, and then this happens.
They have so many talents, and they're so courageous, and she is an incredible organizer among the young people in my office, but around the issues that we really need to focus on if we care about the future of our country. Can we please applaud Alicia for her work?
Woo! Alicia's freaking great! Woo!
Please.
Look at the guy. Look at the guy's clapping.
Really. She's wonderful. Okay, hi, Jimmy.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, it's Jimmy.
Seeing you. I have no idea why you guys called me to do this. Lisa Ling must have been not available. Went down the list. Connie Chung not available. Now here I am. But it's an absolute honor to be here with you, and all these amazing leaders. I've been listening to a lot of talks. First Mayor of Cincinnati and like everyone. It's a lot of firsts, a lot of groundbreaking.
Okay, really. So let's get into her. You're gonna play Date Mary. Make disappear.
Lasting impact, as she said, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things. Make sure you're not the last. My mother was 19 years old when she arrived in the United States by herself.
Okay, so her mom was Indian. This is, Indians aren't Asians. They have this, sometimes they're considered Asian, sometimes they're not. So that's what she's leaning into here, right? But her dad was Jamaican, so she wasn't African American, and she, you know, that's her big claim to fame. But she grew up with a Jamaican dad and an Asian mom, and they were both professors. So professors and people who are, you know, educationally oriented, right, intellectuals, they're different. Like growing up in a college environment is different, and she tries to make it like she grew up as like an African American woman in America under, you know, impoverished situations, but her mom probably dominated the house because that's just the culture. Like I'm familiar with the Indian culture. I was in India for 3 years, and the parents ended up being divorced, right, and all these things. But these academic people, you know, and she's, even with that background, she's a real dope, right? So her parents were both, you know, educated people, intelligent people, and Kamala is not only dopey but clueless and just weird, right? She's weird.
She was the eldest of my grandparents' 4 kids. And she said, and this is she was part of one of the first waves of Indians to come in relative modern history to the United States in the 50s, right? So anybody of South Asian background, you'll know that this was early.
Okay, so that's not a South Asian type of thing. Indians and Asian people are nothing alike, right? You know, like it's just not the same thing. They don't look the same. They're not, you know, like you have Asian people who all look, you know, similar. They have similar, you know, types of features and whatever it is, right? You know, Indian people aren't, you know, they're not like African people because they're different. They have different hair. They have different, you know, features. They have different body shapes. You know, it's like this whole thing, right? And so it's different cultures. More importantly, the cultures are different. And so she's trying to connect with these people who aren't, you know, and she's not really, I mean, she almost never talks about her Indian history unless she's with people who are like in some way connected, like that Mindy Keeling did an interview, and all of a sudden Kamala Harris was talking about her aunties. You know, they'd always talk about aunties and uncles in India and this kind of thing. And she started talking about these things that she grew up with, but normally she doesn't talk about those things at all, right? Because, you know, I know a lot of Indians that have come to America because of the meditation that I do, and their kids, like all ethnic kids, move away from their parents' culture, and they're embarrassed of their heritage because Americans, you know, American kids just want to be Americans. They don't want to be known as the, you know, Irish kid or the Italian kid or the Puerto Rican kid or the whatever it is, right? They become Americans, right? This is what happens. You know, my grandfather came from Sicily, and my grandmother came from Albania. You know, my dad ended up being American. He didn't speak either of those 2 languages, right? You know, he didn't want to be that. And, you know, I mean, my mom was Irish and German, the same thing. You know, you move away, and by the time I came along, like I have almost, you know, very little knowledge or experience with my ethnic heritage. One of my coworkers years ago, I was in my 20s, and she was like, I think, half Polish and half Italian. And her Italian grandmother said, you know, my grandparents, you know, my parents were Italian. You know, I'm Italian American. You're American Italian, and your kids will be American. You know, whatever it is, right? Like it's 4th generation. It's just pretty much gone. And so, you know, Kamala's just being stupid here, right? Like she's trying to fit in. This is what she always does, trying to identify with the audience by, you know, embracing something she pretty much never talks about.
There were not many Indian Americans or Indians who had come in at that point. And my mother said to her father when she was 19 years old, I want to cure cancer. And
so she's a failure. So your mom's a failure?
And so what I learned later is she secretly applied to UC Berkeley. And she got accepted. Wow. And so she went to my grandfather and said, I want to go. And my grandfather was very progressive. His eldest child, we know in Asian culture what birth order means, right?
You know, they're not the same cultures. You can't compare, you know, Asian people, Chinese, Korean, and they're all different. Like Chinese culture is different from Korean culture, Japanese culture, all these things, right? And so the people are different. Like to them, they have, they know the difference in cultures. And Indian people have a completely different culture. Maybe it's, it's more similar than European culture, but it's not the same. They're not connected, right? They're not even close to each other. Where India is, and these other, China is, you have to cross the Himalayas to get to China, right? Like India is not. I mean, it's closer to those countries than, say, America, but they're not, sharing cultural things, right? Ideals.
I am the first grandchild too, I'll say. And my grandfather said, go. And so she arrived in the United States by herself because she had a passion and she had a goal.
Okay, I got to find this other thing that she's doing.
Be silent in those rooms. And that we expect that from you because we also expect that you will internalize and know we're there with you. And so your voice can be strong. It is, as Alicia said, my mother would say to me, don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Okay, who are you? Because nobody really knows. Or if they know, they don't like you because you polled it less than 1% among Democrats. Democrats don't even like you, right? Like, you're unelectable. Like, people just don't like you. They don't, like, even worse than Hillary Clinton.
About us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's about family, it's about community, it's about country, it's about values. Someone once described it to me as if you think of the culture, and I'm oversimplifying obviously, but as an onion. The individual is at the core of the onion.
Never heard this analogy before. What does it have layers, perhaps?
And then there is the family, and there is the community, and there is, and there is. And all of those things are bigger. And that's part of how we are conditioned to think in many ways, which...
Yeah, that's not how you're conditioned to think. Like you threw people under the bus in terms of your own, the people that you claim to be a part of, and were thrown into jail for, like, smoking pot, right? Because you had to meet quotas as a district attorney. And then you came out later and pretended that you were, like, about prison reform.
Sometimes leads to probably a willingness to minimize the importance of the individual, and we have to be careful about that.
Yeah, be careful about that, because the individual is important. Like, I'm important, like my ego and things. The Gaff is real, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But first we have to go back to understand how Kamala Harris got to where she is.
So again, I look at it in terms of the fact that, one of the, I never met him, but one of the mentors for me in terms of the career that I chose was Thurgood Marshall.
She has nothing to do with, like, he was the first black Supreme Court justice, I think that's my understanding.
Who understood the importance of translating the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of America.
Okay, so she didn't grow up in the streets. She grew up in, academic, like these prestigious colleges, right? She grew up at, these college towns, these, university towns, where it's progressive and it's, it's the best place to grow up if you're, somebody who's different, right? And she grew up in these areas, and she didn't grow up on the streets, right? She has nothing to do with the streets.
To make real the promise of America. And when I think about the Dobbs decision, which was just about 2 years ago, the highest court in our land, the court of Thurgood and RBG.
RBG was there.
Just took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America.
You mean the right to murder fetuses? Is this horrible thing that's happening?
And thereafter, in state after state, laws are being proposed and passed that will criminalize healthcare providers, punish women. Some make no exception even for rape or incest. And so there is...
But you realize they're murdering fetuses, which is a human right. You're not respecting the right of the life of the unborn baby. So it's like you it's not a, this is not some cut and dry violation of human rights. But again, she didn't come from the streets. So Kamala Harris got her big break, not because she was, from the streets and she was bringing, she made it in some way. 29-year-old Kamala Harris began her affair with powerful San Francisco politician Willie Brown, then 60, and married, who appointed her to 2 lucrative positions only to dump her after he was voted first black mayor of the city. And so she had an affair with this guy when she was 29. He was 60. That's a big age difference, right? He was twice her age, and she was 29, right? And she got her positions because of that affair with a married man. And so this is why I call her Kamala Knee Pads Harris, right? And I guess this was his wife here. This was this guy. So this is a black guy that she had an affair with. And so she didn't kick in the glass ceiling, right? She didn't do any of these things that were, some ways, there they are there, right? Just with her patented cackle. And so that's how the first way that Kamala Harris made it. She serviced the guy, got on her knees and serviced him. But then she did it again with Joe Biden. I've showed you this gaffe before.
To this issue of black voters, I have a lifetime of experience with black voters. I've been one since I was 18.
That's funny, Corey. You're funny.
Need a focus group to hear from African American voters. Black voters are pissed off and they're worried. They're pissed off because the only time our issues seem to be really paid attention to by politicians is when people are looking for their vote. And they're worried because the Democratic Party, we don't want to see people miss this opportunity and lose because we are nominating someone that isn't trusted, doesn't have authentic connection. And so that's what's...
Okay, so what this is about is Hillary Clinton lost to Trump because she didn't get as much black vote as Barack Obama. Like, that was one of the narratives about this election, right? That Barack Obama brought in more black people to the polls, and Hillary Clinton didn't. They didn't like her. And so Joe Biden was getting support in the African American community. He talked about all the time that was his sort of core group that helped him, become senator and all these other things. And Cory Booker and Kamala Harris were losing to Joe Biden in the black community, which was pissing both of them off because they looked over and this guy's pooping in his Depends and wandering off the stage. He's an old white guy and he's winning more support than they are, right? And they know he's senile and they can't believe it. And so he has a major gaffe here and senior moment, and they can't believe this guy's beating him, right?
It's on the ballot, and issues do matter. I have a lot of respect for the vice president. He has sworn me into my office as a hero. This week I hear him literally say that I don't think we should legalize marijuana. I thought you might have been high when you said it. and let me tell you, because marijuana.
So he's getting a big reaction. Kamala Harris put all kinds of people of color into jail for minor marijuana infractions because she wanted to do this politically. She sacrificed them. So she's not that person, right?
Marijuana in our country is already legal for privileged people, and the war on drugs has been a war on black and brown people. And so let me just say this: with more African Americans under criminal supervision in America than all the slaves since 1850.
See, I thought he developed that tick when he had a mask on, but he was doing it when he had a mask where he rubs his face.
Do not roll up into communities and not talk directly to issues that are going to relate to the liberation of children, because there are people in Congress right now that admit to smoking marijuana, while there are our kids are in jail right now for those drug crimes. And so these are the kind of issues that mean a lot to our community. And if we don't have somebody authentically, we lost the last election. Let me just give you this data example. We lost in Wisconsin because of a massive diminution, a lot of reasons, but there was a massive diminution in the African-American vote. We need to have someone that can inspire, as Kamala said, to inspire African-Americans to the polls at record numbers.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Vice President Biden.
Kamala is an African-American. Again, she's Jamaican and Indian.
And you can respond to that.
I'll be very brief. Number one, I think we should decriminalize marijuana, period. And I think anyone who has a record should be let out of jail, their records expunged, it be completely zeroed out. But I do think it makes sense, based on data, that we should study what the long-term effects are for the use of marijuana. That's all.
You don't think it's been studied? It's been around for like 1,000 years, Joe. Like, I say this every time. Because it's so stupid what he's saying. This has nothing to do with my major point here. Like, we don't know what marijuana does. Okay, so when I said it's been around for 1,000 years, I knew that was, like, not accurate. And I looked it up. It's been around since 2800 BC. So it's more like 5,000 years, right? I mean, before Christ, they were using this thing. It's like the Neanderthals were using this stuff, right? And so, it's not an unknown. It's not Ozempic, or it's not fentanyl that just was recently created, some synthetic thing, right? This is a natural product that's been used for over 5,000 years and been studied intensely. He would later go on to make the boop mandatory practically, right? All these mandates telling everybody who didn't take it they were, causing the pandemic. And that was brand new. It was brand new technology, right? All this like gene editing, all this stuff, mRNA, right? Brand new. And he wants to study marijuana because we don't know what it does, right? Like he's just...
It is. Number one, everybody gets out, record expunged. Secondly, I'm part of that Obama coalition. I come out of the black community in terms of my support. If you notice, I have more people supporting me in the black community that have announced for me.
So this is the big thing here.
Because they know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
That's not true. The other one is here.
So he gets confused, right? And it's kind of true what he's saying, because Kamala's really not African-American. I mean, that's what she puts when she does her, she fills out a form somewhere. But she's Jamaican and Indian. And she's trying to be Asian when she's with Asians. She's trying to be, whatever she is, right? But here, he's confused. And Cory Booker and Kamala Harris start laughing at him because Kamala Harris is the second African-American woman to be elected to Senate based in, her false narrative. And he's confused, right?
I said the first.
And then he goes, I said the first. No, you didn't. We just heard what you said. So he's senile. That shows he's senile.
I said the first African-American elected. Come on. First African-American. So my point...
She's laughing because she knows he's senile, right? She knows this guy's a senile MNFer and can't believe that she's losing to him in the community that she's supposed to be from. She ends up polling only less than 1% and has to quit, right? And then she's telling us that this guy is really coherent and he's doing a great job. So she's getting on her knees and servicing Joe Biden because she knows this guy's going to die and she's going to be president, right? And she's willing to do anything and lie and pretend this guy's, is great, right? And she knows he's not great. He's an old white guy, and she's servicing him just like she serviced the other guy to move ahead, because she can't be elected because people don't like her. So she's been appointed to a position by a guy who, he said that he was going to choose a woman for his vice president. And then he said it was going to be an African-American woman. And he didn't have very many options, so he chose her, even though nobody liked her. And plus she was insurance for him because, people are like, well, this is the alternative if he's impeached or he dies or whatever. They would rather have Biden than her, right? So, she was like insurance policy for him.
My point is that one of the reasons I was picked to be vice president.
She's laughing, right? She's laughing at him for being, his mental capacity's gone.
And it was because of my relationship, long-standing relationship with the black community. I was part of that coalition.
So this is the section leading up to the Gaff.
And a government that treated people equally and with fairness, and a government that was not corrupt. And that influenced my life in more ways than I can ever explain, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And all of that had an impact then on what I decided to do with my life. My mother, when she arrived in the United States, she automatically, given who my grandfather was and about the fight for independence in India, my mother then, of course, you might know this in retrospect, took to the streets to march for civil rights in her sari.
In her sari?
Yeah.
They don't get the sorry joke.
That's how she met my father.
Because they were a couple of academics, right? Future professors in a college town marching for something that was going to have no effect on anything, right?
And all of that has had a profound influence. But I will also add to this about being the first, because there's so many firsts here. And there are so many who are the first have decided we will mentor you and we will support you and we will remind you of what it involves, and also that you have an incredible community of people that are encouraging you every step of the way. So,
because she's the first woman and person of color to be a vice president, or whatever it is, Asian, right? She's the first Indian, part Indian person. So these are first, right? But she doesn't really deserve that title because she didn't earn anything, right? I mean, you know, getting on her knees and being in knee pads, yeah, that's, I guess, earning, you know, the way a prostitute earns, right? But it's not something she did something great, right? The oldest profession in the world, right?
So here's the thing about breaking barriers.
She's going to tell you how to break barriers. Get on those knee pads.
Breaking barriers does not mean you start on one side of the barrier and you end up on the other side. There's breaking involved. And when you break things, you get cut.
Yeah, or you get on your knee pads and you service powerful men.
And you may bleed. And it is worth it every time.
Exactly, it's worth it. Get on your knees, do your knee pad things, it's worth it.
Every time. And so too, especially the young people here, I say to you, when you walk in those rooms...
You go to those rooms, put on those knee pads.
Being the only one that looks like you.
Exactly.
The only one with your background. You walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back.
Your chin's not going to be up for long.
Be it a meeting room, a boardroom, a courtroom, a hearing room. You walk in those rooms knowing that we are all in that room with you, applauding you on, and expecting certain things from you.
Exactly. Like your knee pads.
Including...
They're expecting things from you, Kamala.
That you will not be silent in those rooms.
You're going to gurgle.
And that we expect that from you because we also expect that you will internalize and know we're there with you. And so your voice can be strong.
Because you got all these people in the room with you that don't know you, don't care about you, because they're all, coming from something where they look different too.
It is, as Alicia said, my mother would say to me, don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. Don't ever carry as a personal burden.
You tell them this is who I am. Don't tell me who I am.
Your capacity to do whatever you dream and aspire to do based on other people's limited ability to see who can do what. This is part of what's involved.
And having an affair with a married man was twice your age. He was powerful and he could give you good jobs. You gave him good jobs. I'm editing. I just caught that. I didn't intentionally do that, but he gave you good jobs. You gave him good jobs. It was, it was simpatico.
Is that we have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't.
So you gotta get in your knee pads and say, go. You leave the door open for me.
And then you need to kick that fucking door down.
What door did you kick down? Tell me a door you kicked down, right? I mean, you can't kick a door down when you're on your knees.
Excuse my language.
Excuse my language. You know, I'm kind of a ho, Babylonian ho.
We're gonna make T-shirts with that saying "Kick the fucking door down." I mean, I literally just got emotional listening to that. Like, I think all of us
You can get on your knees.
in this room have that experience, you know.
Okay, so like again, she didn't kick any doors down. So we know how she got her career started, right? She was 30. She was struggling, you know, just a mid-level, low-level bureaucrat and not somebody, you know, a lawyer or whatever. And she was made district attorney of some place in, you know, San Francisco, whatever, some California thing, where instead of supporting the people that she claims to be a part of, she threw them in jail for minor marijuana, you know, possession or, you know, usage. And they went to prison because they had quotas, and it was a big business. Prison's a big business. And so they throw people who don't really deserve to be in there for minor infractions, right? Infractions. And so she that was how she got her start. And I'm sure she just knee padded her way all the way into where she was a senator, right? And she's really unlikable. So much so that she got less than 1% from the, you know, she never got one vote in one primary. She didn't make it to New Hampshire. She didn't make it to Iowa. And she was pushed out there. Chris Matthews said on MSNBC, you know, the now disgraced and fired Me Too'd Chris Matthews, said that Kamala Harris would be a great vice president candidate for Joe Biden. And then Kamala Harris started to get support. She got 12% in the polls. Now, Joe Biden was polling at 20%, and she was in second at 12%. And then all the other candidates took notice, and she debated them and did her, you know, her cackle and did her stuff. And they, you know, went after her on a record. And the American Democrats who were going to vote in the primary didn't like her. And she plummeted from 12% down to less than 1%. I mean, she was polling less than Marianne Williamson and some of these other guys, right? That guy Yang, remember these guys? He wasn't even, like, they're not even politicians, and they were polling higher. They had a higher, they were like at 1 or 2%. She was less than 1%. She ran out of money, and she quit. And so she had zero chance of, you know, I mean, even getting votes in a primary, never mind being president. So she was, American people decided, you're not, you know, like, you're not even polling at 1% in Democrats. She couldn't get any support, even among, like, Indian people who would support her just because of her, you know, of her ethnic background. She couldn't generate any kind of support. And so she's done. And Joe Biden, they robbed the election from Bernie Sanders. Remember, Bernie Sanders had much more passion behind his candidacy. And Joe Biden lost the first 2 primaries as well. So the Democrats didn't even want him in Iowa and New Hampshire. Now, South Carolina, this guy Clyburn saved Biden, you know, and said, you know, Biden was running the No Malarkey campaign. It was totally out of touch, right? No Malarkey was a saying that when I grew up, my parents, like, it was, you know, was something, my mom was Irish, and it was like a saying that people older than my mom's been dead for years. She died in her 90s, right? She'd be in her hundreds now. And she, like, it was old-fashioned for my mom's generation to say No Malarkey, right? But he went on the No Malarkey tour, and, like, it was just a joke. And so he promised, you know, like I said earlier, to have a woman, because, you know, he had to do that, and then a person of color. And so she got chosen again, and her job is to basically tell everyone Joe Biden isn't senile and to make him look good in comparison, which she does because she sucks, right? So she's kicked down no barriers. Like, this is, you know, it's the equivalent of getting on her knees and servicing that mayor the way she services Joe Biden and pretends the guy is, qualified and is mentally stable, which everyone knows he isn't, right? Everyone with half a brain knows that this guy's senile. And so that's how she got to where she was, being on her knee pads, right? Putting on her knees, getting on her knees and servicing powerful men and these things, right? And then she claims to be, a champion who kicks down doors and breaks glass ceilings. And she very well could be the first woman president. And she would get there because some guy died. White guy died. And so she isn't any of these things, right? She isn't any of the things she pretends to be. Like, she's a complete fraud. Okay, so I need to add this. I got one more thing I'm going to get into the prayer. Some epic stuff for Don Lemon I'm going to have to save for next time because the video is getting long. But I just want to add this. Usually I, say things that I don't think are that subtle, but, sometimes I just don't spell out exactly what I'm talking about. I just assume people will get it, right? And, you probably do, but this is just being more specific about it. So, kissing ass is like the best way to move forward in politics and business and all these things, right? Nepotism and, connecting with people who are in power. And, this is why I talk about the Duchess of Sucksticks, right? The Duke and the Duchess of Sucksticks. But even the royal family, they have to kiss ass, right? They have to get on their knees. They have to kiss the ring. Kissing the ring, bending down, getting on their knees, and kissing the ring of the sovereign, or the king, or the queen. Serving at the pleasure of the president, right? That's what they say. And so it's kissing somebody's ass who's got power and influence. People do that all the time. That's why they go to universities like Harvard and, these Yale and these other institutions, is to connect with people who are on are a part of the club. And being part of the club is more important than any of your skills and any of your inventions and any of the things that you have to offer. Because they can find someone else with your creativity, or let's say you get an invention, they can steal it from you, whatever it might be. And so the best way to assure your being part of the club is to get on your knees, right? Which Kamala Harris obviously did, because she dated a powerful man who was married, and he gave her jobs, right? He gave her a career for doing that. And she was with him, and she got a career because of it. And now you can see she's doing the same thing with Joe Biden. When you knew that she knew that he was senile based on how she was laughing at him at that debate I showed you, and then other times, she confronted him in debates and said things about him. She knew he was gone. Like, she didn't come out and say it, but you could tell she knew. And now she's pretending that isn't true, even though he's much worse 4 years later. Because she knows the only way she's going to be president is to be vice president and the president dies, right? Or gets impeached or something. The only way she's ever going to be president is the current situation she's in, because she's not going to earn it. She's not going to do it on her merit. People don't like her. The Democrats don't like her. She'll never be voted president. I mean, she has zero chance of winning an election. Maybe if she's a president and, they run Trump again, they run Trump's corpse against her in 4 years, and she's already president, maybe she'd have a chance, but probably not, because she's the kind of person that, she's a fall guy. She's the kind of person that they put out there as a shield, and you vent all your anger and hatred towards her. She just pisses people off. She doesn't have any kind of skills or talents, but she knows how to kiss ass, right? She knows how to get on her knees. She's that's how she made it. And so, I don't really care about that. Like I said, it's the oldest prostitution. People have been kissing the ring forever, but that's how you get into power. That's the best way to get into power. Find rich people, find, people who are gatekeepers to you and your success, and you kiss their ass. Look at what happened with Harvey Weinstein, right? And the casting couch. That's how people, get in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, but it's something like that. You have to prostrate in front of them. Prostrate? What am I? Prostrate. You have to prostrate. You have to bow down before them, and you have to, completely, worship them in some way or another. Like, you have to be subservient to them in such a way that they will give you a chance. They throw you a crumb. And that's what she's done. That's what Kamala Harris has done. She didn't kick any doors down. She didn't do anything great. She didn't, burst in the room and say, this is who I am. I'm telling you who I am. No, she did the opposite of that. And so to go out there and be completely fraudulent and tell these kids and people there, how to get into these doors and break these glass ceilings and do these things and kick open the door, kick open the effing door, right? That's not, that's not accurate at all. It's the opposite. You're a complete fraud. You got on your knees. You didn't kick anything open. You didn't do anything. You didn't, you weren't brilliant. You kissed ass, right? Like, you got, you're Kamala knee pads Harris. And anybody with half a brain would know that's how you got to where you were, because you don't have anything to offer. No one goes, oh my God, you hear what Kamala said? She's so brilliant. She's so insightful. Right? And so, that's the thing, right? That's, you're a poser. Like, there's nothing worse than a poser. Like, just say, all right, this is how I got where I am. And now I'm there. Maybe you'll be president. Maybe Biden gets elected again. He won't complete 4 years, and you'll be the first woman president. But you're not like, somebody great. You're not a great person. You're not a Mahatma, right? You're not somebody who, made it. You somebody who kissed ass, and you got lucky, and you got the breaks, right? And so, you're top of the line ass kisser, knee pad wearer. I mean, in terms of, all the people that engage in these behaviors, you've done it really well. So that's your talent, right? But don't go out there and talk about kicking doors down and, make them notice you, right? That's not, none of that's true. Like, you're not a person who succeeded. You parasited off of the success and power of other people. Okay, I have one more thing to show you. I'm not going to watch this. One of my viewers sent to me, but I used to cover Gaddafi quite a bit, and he was actually a good leader and somebody who was kind of pretty smart in terms of his a lot of his policies, and he was good for the people of Libya. Like, the people loved him. He had 70% approval, and he took it from the poorest country to the richest country in Africa. It was the poorest country in Africa, and now it was the richest country in Africa, and now it's probably the poorest country again. But he did a good job. And, people portrayed him as crazy and things, but he poured money back into the country, and they stole technology. He had this technology he developed to take glacial waters, buried glacial waters, and he literally greened the desert. And he won awards for it, right? But then they demonized him, and they took him out because he wanted to do the gold dinar and stuff, and they, made up some stuff. The UN ordered America and these other countries to go in and take him out, and they robbed the resources from the country. But someone's taken his speeches, and he gives this one epic speech in the UN, which I'm aware of, where he talks about all the wars that they allowed, and he's just slamming the UN. And they, it's here for people. That's the title of the video, if you're interested. I thought I'd pass that on. And so, I want to talk about prayer, and I was already making this video, and then I checked my Instagram messages, and somebody sent me this. It's kind of hilarious.
Man, just rode past my preacher. He called me and told me I can't go back to his church. What happened was, I was driving, and I seen him on the side of the road, and I think he ran out of gas or something. So I pulled over and asked him if he need help. He said, yeah. So I grabbed his hand, and I prayed with him. And then I got back in my car. I said, help should be on the way. And he got mad. Nigga, you did that when I told you I was laying on my bills. Nigga, you prayed for me and said, hopefully help be on the way. I thought I was returning the favor. I thought prayer was the most powerful thing I can give. I ain't want to give him no money. I gave him some money on Sunday.
That's great. So in that video entitled, whatever I said it was, you're going the wrong way, boop hole, or whatever it was. God saying that to you. But I talked about prayer. And I want to talk about it more because the Sajmarg explanation of prayer and the application, the way that you pray, is the most sophisticated and, to me, the most accurate understanding of it, right? So the original explanation is, Babji, the second master of the system, said, prayer is begging and meditation is receiving. And so usually the way people use prayer is to beg for God for something, right? So you're either, there's something that you want or something that you don't want or something you want to change. There's something going on in your life, and you're begging God to change those things, right? To, something that's unpleasant and undesirable. You're saying, something's wrong, God, you're screwed up. Why is this happening to me? Please fix this. And if God doesn't answer those prayers, oftentimes people lose faith and say, why would God make me suffer this way? And so you blame God and you say, I know more than God. I know what I need. I need what I need and what I should have more than God. And God's giving me this, and I'm not responsible at all. I'm a victim, and God's just doing this to me because God must be sadistic, or God must not exist at all. And if there was a true God, I would be richer or better looking or thinner, or wouldn't be experiencing abuse or whatever it might be, right? And so people pray in a way to beg God to change something that they think God is responsible for, right? That God's doing this to me. And so, meditation, you're receiving, in a sense, you're connecting to God, and you're whatever God gives you, you accept. You're opening yourself up and allowing God to come into you, or you're connecting with the part of you that's divine, right? Whatever way you want to look at it. But you're acknowledging something higher than you, and you're connecting to that energy, and you're not going with some set, thing that you want, or some desire of something you don't want, or something that you do want, or whatever. Like, God, please fix this. God, can you change this thing for me? I can't deal with this, God. Why are you doing this to me? Can you please change it? And so, this is the idea of prayer as begging. But prayer in the Sajmark system, the way it's used, you're never praying for something for yourself, and really something for other people. Because if there is a God, then God knows more than you. So you're not going to God and say, this is what you should do, God. It's like, this is something that's off here. This is how you should fix it. What you're really doing is bringing God into the situation. You're connecting yourself and really other people to divinity, because praying for other people is much more powerful, because it's selfless, right? There's no desire. But if you're going through something yourself, if you pray in a way where you're saying, God, this is, help me have the strength to endure this, or help me understand why this is happening, or whatever it is, God, help me. I can't, I'm overwhelmed by this thing, whatever it might be. But if you really want something, you'll get it if you're supposed to have it, right? Because God knows more. So if you connect to God, you get what's best for you, and having faith in that. And so what you're doing is bringing God into a situation that maybe, God is hidden. God's always there, but God's hidden. So there are people out there who aren't able to connect to God. So you pray that, when I gave the example of somebody being broke down, family being broke down beside the road, and, something, I felt something, so I prayed for them, right? But what I was doing is, connecting God to the situation. And so that divinity is now there with the people, and they can embrace the divinity, right? That's what you're doing. You're embracing the divinity, the divine aspect of something. Something seems horrific. They say war is the absence of God, because of all the, not just what happens in terms of the, the battles, but the way people behave when everything breaks down and they're desperate and they're running around a war-torn country and they're all fearful. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens. People who are victims of the war, or not, I don't like the word victims, but are, being, invaded and things like this, and they're being bombed and killed, and their, countries being destroyed. They will do horrible things to each other during that time. They'll take advantage of the lack of laws, and it's just bad. Wars are horrible. But God can be brought into anything, and it can be divinize anything, right? Anything can be made divine, but you have to ask for it. You have to invite God in, and you have to connect to God. And somebody who is working on that process, they have a better ability to connect something with God. Something that we're doing here is witnessing what's going on and reporting back, so God can make the necessary corrections. But we always have the attitude that maybe this is what's supposed to happen. Because everything that's happening is happening for some real reason. Even if it's something diabolical or demonic, it's happening because people have allowed it or chose it, right? collectively and individually. And so whatever God's going to do with that, it isn't going to be something that's just going to wipe away the mistakes that were made and the consequences for those mistakes, right? And sometimes, you have to go through something bad to get rid of the inner poison that you have and, open you up and, whatever it might be. Like that happens all the time. Misery is a divine blessing. So this idea that there's a plan, and sometimes the plan isn't what you want to hear or what you want to experience, and so you're praying that you are able to do that, or other people are able to do it, and see the divinity within everything and the reason why something's happening, and embrace it and be grateful for it, even if it's something that's that's not very palatable, that's not something that they want to endure, right? And so that's like the true essence of prayer. In a sense, you're still begging, but you're begging God for the strength to to do the right thing and take the right attitude and see what needs to be seen and do what needs to be done, right? And so that's like a more sophisticated understanding of prayer, rather than, oh God, can you change this, or God, can you give me this, or God, this has to happen, or any of those things, right? Because you can make the things happen. I mean, you can the things that you want, you can go out and get. People can do that, right? You can make enough money. You can I mean, most people I mean, in terms of they think they want something and they really don't, right? Because their soul isn't wanting that for them, and deep down it's not what's best for them. They want things, but deep down they know it isn't what they should have, so they don't obtain those things, and then they blame God and say, why didn't you give me this? I deserve it. Well, if you deserve it, you would have it, right? Like it was something that was for your best self-interest, and you want it on an egotistical level, then why isn't it happening? Because your soul doesn't want it. It's not part of your destiny or plan. It's not it's not what's best for you. Anyways, I just thought I'd add those things. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.